Welcome everybody, my name is Ashton, or Ash for short. I'm going to be taking you through the B2B Bootcamp session today. And what this session is, it's basically a setup guide to your B2B store. So this webinar is really designed for people who have set up their Unleashed account. So you've set up your Unleashed account, you've got your products, you've got everything in there, you've started transacting, all happy days on the Unleashed side, and you've just looked into the B2B portal and you've signed up for the B2B portal. So it takes you through that process of directly integrating your current Unleashed account with the B2B store, how to set up that store really nice and easily, and all the many different tips and tricks that are involved with fine-tuning your store, getting the customization in for your store, and just really some of the benefits and the features you'll see that you can do in the B2B store. There's quite a lot that is possible. We do go through quite a lot in this presentation, so just obviously be prepared for a bit of information. The session is recorded, so you'll be able to review the recording at a later point. We'll send you guys the recording of the session and it'll be available for anybody who's interested. So definitely recommend watching that. If you need to leave halfway through or whatever the situation is. And you can also use that as a bit of a guide when you're walking through. So you can actually listen to me ramble on about how to do it when you're actually doing it on the other screen. So definitely can use that as a bit of a guide for when you're actually setting up the store itself. So let me share my screen and we can get started there. Let me just select the right one. Awesome. All right. So you've got hang on, you've got your presentation. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. There we go. All right. So the agenda for today, these are the main points we're going to go through during this presentation of the session. Now, just a bit of a heads up as well, we're not doing a live Q&A, I'm afraid, in this particular webinar, just because of timing. We just couldn't really wrangle it, unfortunately, but we do have a bootcamp@unleashedsoftware.com email address. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that email address on the screen a couple of times and at the end of the session as well. Definitely get in touch via that email if you've got any burning questions after this webinar. We'll get in touch with you as soon as we can with answers to those questions once you email in. So we definitely are open to feedback and definitely open to those questions. So just contact that email address. So it's bootcamp@unleashedsoftware.com, and we'll show you the email address on the screen later on as well. But just bear with me, there's no live Q&A in this particular session today. So what we're covering, we're covering basically the store setup from the very first inkling. So we're actually getting a completely new store up on the screen. So you've got step-by-step guide onto how to do it. And from when I'm doing that, it'll show you kind of how it integrates smoothly and some of the different sort of key things to note when you're creating that store. Importing your products, we're going to show that in action from the integration side of it. So obviously the B2B portal directly integrates with your Unleashed account. That's already been set up by this point. So we're going to show you how to get those products in really nice and simply. Categorizing products. So this is for filtering. This is for your customers when they log into your B2B storefront to search for a particular product. We've also got catalogs as well. So you can basically set up individual product lists for customers, or you can restrict certain products to certain customers if you wish. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but we'll show you how to do that. Inviting your customers, again, really easy process. We're going to go through that as well, and getting them access to actually go through your setup B2B store and actually start ordering from you. And finally, setting up payment and delivery details. Again, extra stuff that you can set up for your customers when they are ordering from the store. So we're going to go through those. We're going to go through a lot of other stuff as well. There's going to be a lot of other things that we do run through just in terms of the actual the customization of the store and in terms of the visual sense, and also just how it operates. So things like out of stock, how that sort of functions, your stock numbers, all this kind of stuff. So we're going to run through that as well, but these are the main points that we're going to cover today here. So why use the B2B store? So just as a bit of a background, the B2B store is a directly integrated e-commerce storefront that directly integrates with Unleashed. So it's being developed in-house by us. And basically what it does is it links directly to an Unleashed account, and it's an online store which you can invite your customers into. The products and the customers directly sync from your Unleashed account to your B2B store. Customer prices sync from your B2B, customers' prices sync from Unleashed to your B2B store as well. And also your stock numbers and all that as well sync over in real time. So That's all going to happen. Basically, what you can then do is customers can access your B2B store, or you can act on behalf of customers. More on that later. And guests can also log into your B2B store if you wish as well. They create an order for your products. That order then gets pushed through into Unleash as a sales order, which you can then process on your end. So again, very, very direct integration, similar to something we also have with Shopify, for example, but it's more directly sort of in-house rather than through a separate third-party app. Now, why use the B2B store? So there's a few key benefits to the store. What we have seen on average is a 25% increase in order frequency for customers that are on the B2B portal, as well as a sales revenue bump by 20.3%. So that's a rough statistic. The reason that there's more revenue there, the reason there's more order frequency is it's because it's giving the customers the ability to actually do it on their side. So not having to rely on emails, phone calls, anything like that. You might not be available for whatever reason if they're trying to phone you, for example, to place an order. This completely gets rid of that disruption, and they can actually log into the store, order themselves, and then that order will just come directly to your Unleash, and you know exactly what they're ordering and how to action it. So it's just a way more direct way of getting your customers to order from you, and that's why you see that increase and that sales revenue, as well as the order frequency in general, because they're going to have a lot more time on their hands to actually go and order rather than having to go through a lot of back and forth communication between the two departments. Now, you can offer flexible discounts and prices for your customers. So this is because it ties directly to Unleashed, right? So if you've got a bunch of quantity discounts for your products, in Unleashed, you obviously can change those discounts whenever you wish in Unleashed. That then feeds back into the B2B portal. So if you've got customer-specific discounts or prices, when that customer logs into the B2B store, they're going to see their own unique price and their own unique discount rate. And obviously, if you're doing a promotion, if you're doing a timed promotion, you can set that up in Unleashed. It then feeds again through to the B2B portal. So you can change your discounts. You can provide a lot of flexibility there and really, really alter your discounts week by week or month by month to really give the customers the best possible experience in terms of your storefront, and also obviously more profits for yourself because you're managing your price points a lot more accurately there. Now, improving cash flow with the pay now or pay later feature. So with the B2B store, we have the ability to link directly with the Stripe payment system. So that basically acts as a payment gateway for when they are checking out of the B2B portal when they're making an order. So with pay now or pay later, when you integrate Stripe with the B2B portal, you've got a couple of options you can set specific customers as. You can set them as prepaid, which means that they're paying now. So they obviously do the order, they pay right then and there. Just prevents any outstanding invoices, any cash flow issues from that, particularly for guest customers, maybe. That might be a good way to do that. And then you've got pay later, which pay later is essentially an on-account customer. And so they're actually not paying directly at that point of checkout, but they're paying at a later date. So you can have a mix. You can have people that are pay now, which is more of your retail customers, for example. And then you can have your trade wholesale customers, your repeat clients, who are maybe on a pay later or an on-account sort of vibe. So again, just improving that cash flow, making sure it's protected, and making sure that your customers who are loyal and are reliant or are reliable with payments are having that option too on their side. You can customize your storefront to give your customers a better shopping experience. So this is visually also, but as well as more in terms of how the orders are structured as well. So obviously you can make images, you can make notes, you can add specifications, technical measurements for products, making it easier for your customers to actually see what the products are. You can also enable things like subscription orders, for example. So customers, rather than having to go and order every single week or every month, they can just set a repeating order so that it'll just automatically order for them with the frequency that they provide there. So again, fully customizable, fully tailorable, just allows for customers to have the best shopping experience and the smoothest shopping experience that they can have with a directly integrated system. You can track and save your freight charges. So you can actually set freight charges in the B2B portal per cell tier and per customer type, and also for a order value that goes over a certain threshold. Say, for example, if the customer spends over $500, they get free freight, for example, right? So you can track that in Unleashed. You can set that in the B2B portal. You can save and customize that whenever you want. And again, you can also have that direct transparency for the customer when they're checking out as to what they're actually purchasing with freight and what they're actually purchasing in terms of products. So again, just provides that streamlining ability there. And finally, it's improving customer satisfaction. It's delivering a great service and features like repeat orders, like I mentioned earlier with the subscription-based standing orders. Again, just though the wealth of features and wealth of tailoring that you can do really just provides an experience that you can then create for your customers and improve their satisfaction moving ahead. And also satisfaction obviously leads to more sales. So you want to be able to satisfy your customers in that way. So how can I use the B2B store? So it's more than just online selling. There's actually a few other use cases for it. Selling on the move is a big one. So as you may be aware, we did have a Unleashed Sales app, which we did have to get rid of for various, it was just outdated and it just was kind of not being supported anymore by the app stores. So we did have to sunset that, I'm afraid. We do have the B2B portal as a replacement for that. So the B2B portal is mobile friendly. It allows for remote sales. So your sales reps can go around with the B2B store on their phones, act as a customer, go in and actually make an order for the customer on their behalf. Obviously, customers themselves could then also go on a phone and use the B2B portal themselves because they can just log in. And also, if you're at a trade show, for example, you can log the B2B portal on a tablet at a kiosk or whatever you're doing. And then they can also have people come up as guests and start creating orders as well. So there's a lot of different use cases for remote selling as well as online selling, which is super helpful. And just as a bit of a sidebar there, what I've done is I've actually just brought a B2B store up at the moment, and this is a mobile view. So this is actually showing you what it would look like typically on a typical iPhone. So it's going to come up with all of the products here. Obviously, they can add stuff to their carts, etc., etc. Oh, why are you zooming in like that? That's not what I wanted to do. Just bear with me a second. Sorry, guys. Here we go. That's better. So you've got all the products here. You can also obviously select this. This is a typical app view that you may have seen before, and you can come up with all your home pages, your products, your about us pages, your settings, etc., etc. So it's very, very mobile friendly, and it just allows for that extra sort of visibility there. So you can see that's what my home page looks like, nice and fancy. And again, it looks really, really good on a mobile device as well as a computer. So just something to bear in mind if you're more reliant on remote selling in that instance. You can also use the B2B store as an online price book of sorts. So again, like I mentioned earlier, customer prices, so any customer specific prices or any tiered pricing you've got against customers, that all flows through to the B2B portal when you're acting as that customer or they log in themselves and see that. So you can basically use it as like a price book because the customer can just go in themselves and obviously see their prices for products. Or obviously, if a customer brings up and just wants a quote on something or a price, you can just go and look up their B2B, act as a customer, and see their particular price for each product. And it's nice and simple. So definitely more of a price book angle there as well as just a selling angle. So I'm going to go into the presentation stuff soon. Definitely recommend getting the B2B showcase up as well. This is a bunch of sample customers that have very, very generously offered to show us their B2B and allow us to show to other customers as well. This will show you things like that are possible, such as embedding into your website, for example. And just some more of the branding visual stuff that they've done is quite cool. So definitely recommend having a look at that B2B showcase and having a look and just seeing what's actually out there and what's actually possible with the storefront. It's pretty cool stuff. So like I said, if there's any questions after the session, please feel free to direct them to this email address up on the screen here. So bootcamp@unleashedsoftware.com. And again, I'm going to show this at the end of the session as well. And yeah, just make sure if you've got any burning questions, just make sure you pop them in there and we'll be able to help you out straight away. This will also extend to marketing support, by the way. So with all the visual stuff you're going to see today, we can actually provide assistance on that. The marketing team have offered to provide customers with some visual aid in terms of making your banner images look cool, making your store look nice and pretty. So definitely, if you're interested in that, also contact them on that email address there, and they'll be able to reach out and assist you further there with some additional visual support if you want to. Awesome. All right. Oh, pardon me. What am I doing? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a store setup now. So this account here is a new B2B account. So it's a setup Unleashed account. The products are already in there. Sales are already in there. It's already an active Unleashed account. If you haven't set up your Unleashed account already, that's okay too. You can follow along with this at a later point. And you can set the B2B store up before you've actually set up Unleashed as well. You're just not going to see this direct integration that you're going to see here. So just bear that in mind. We usually would set up Unleashed first and then the B2B store in most cases, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our B2B portals menu, which is just on the left-hand side here. You'll see in Unleashed, and we're going to go add new store. So it's already going to come up with a store subdomain for you. You can customize this if you want to. This is basically the web address or the URL of your store that the customer is going to use to actually access the storefront, and that's the actual website that's going to display. So it actually creates a separate website for you. I might want to call this something else, so let's just put demo or example or whatever as part of my URL. So you can customize that. It's always going to have .store.unleashedsoftware.com in there, but you can customize the prefix of it if you need to. Cool. I'm just going to add an extra as well, just for a laugh. Cool. So now you've got your email addresses. So this is going to come up with all the email addresses that are in Unleashed as users. So you need to make sure that all the people you need access to the B2B store as on an admin front and also as a salesperson front. Just make sure they're actually a user in your Unleashed account, because then you can just invite them in as an admin or a salesperson, as you'll see later on, and they'll be able to access that straight away. So I'm just going to put my email address in here. So this is setting up the main sort of default admin account, if you will. Give the store a name, so we can just call it RHS. I'm just going to call it demo store. Password, so I'm just going to create my own password here for my account. So just bear with me on this one. Cool, and now we get to how it actually operates. So this is a few things you need to make sure you're happy with. So Unleashed order status. So what's going to happen is the B2B store is going to create a sales order. That sales order is then going to push into Unleashed at a certain status. This is where you can choose that status. So I can go, okay, I want my orders to be placed rather than parked, so I don't want them set as drafts, or I can set them as back ordered if I wish as well, just so I can monitor that a bit further. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But that's the status in Unleashed that the order is going to be absorbed into when it goes into Unleashed from the B2B side of things. Warehouse mapping. So this is a similar thing. So this is dictating the warehouse that is set by default for your sales orders coming from B2B. You can see I've got 3 warehouses here. I'm just going to select this one because it's my main HQ one, which has most of my orders come through it anyway. But obviously you might differ in your configuration there. You've got default tax rate. So this is the default tax rate on the orders that come through from the B2B store. Now, if you've got a customer with a specific tax rate or products that have specific tax rates on them set up already in Unleashed, this won't matter too much because it's just going to use the product rate or the customer rate if there's no product rate above that. So this is only for if you've got a customer who doesn't have any tax rates at all, and it's a guest order, for example, it's going to be the default tax rate on that particular order from the B2B store. And for most people, this would just be your default GST rate, for example. Then finally, you've got your colors for your store. So you've got a primary color and a secondary color to select. The primary color is for your store header. So that's the main banner up the top. And then the secondary color is for your buttons and action fields. So this is the stuff you actually click to action stuff in the store. Now you can select, so you can click and drag, you can change your color hue there. Or if you're a bit more branding conscious, you can use hex codes. You've got RGB codes there. So if you've got very specific colors you use for your branding, you can absolutely put them in here and set those up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a nice purpley one for my primary. And let's go a nice teal color there. Looks a bit ghastly, but I'm just going to run with it. Anyway, it's not a great combination of colors, admittedly. So I'm going to go and create the store now. And I'm just going to click that button there. Now it's just going to come up with a login screen. So I'm just going to log into the account that I had set up just before. There we are. Beautiful. So it's already set up the store for me. So the store is actually now pretty much created. It's going to need a bit of fine tuning, obviously, but it's a very basic store that has been created. Now, to answer the second agenda option or question of how to import products into your B2B store, it's already done. So as soon as you create the store, your products are already in there, which is awesome. So it's a very, very, very smooth integration. You can see a product image has also come through as well. So that product has a specific image, so that can be displayed in the store as well. And that's automatically going to come through as soon as the store is created right off the bat. So really, really cool. Your customers also would have come through. So if I go into my customers list, you'll see that they have also already come through. Now, they haven't been invited to the store yet, but they've been set up as contacts to invite. But you don't have to go and import a bunch of customers in, import a bunch of products in again, like you did with Unleashed. It's already there, set from Unleashed, and it's all ready to go for you. So technically, even though we wouldn't in this case usually, because this looks a bit basic, but technically you could actually sell from the store because this is actually an active shopping cart now. We haven't invited anybody yet, but you could in theory, and they could go in and actually go and order from here. So that's how easy it is to actually create a basic store. from scratch. So hopefully that was helpful just to kind of see the very, very genesis of it and how smooth it actually is going into it. Now I'm going to do something a bit jarring here. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to transfer over to a different store that's been a bit more set up just to cover more of the customization side of it. So I'm just going to go into here now. Awesome. So this is my test store. This is a spirits company, and you can see it's looking a bit more fine-tuned now. So it's looking a bit more palatable for customers, you could say. So this is what my shopping cart looks like. So I've got all my product images here, all looking nice and pretty, ready to go. Now, I would recommend, if you're using the B2B store and if you've got the time to, and if it's reasonable to do so, put some product images in for your products. That comes from Unleashed. So there's an attachments tab for your products in Unleashed. You can go and add these images in, and then that's going to be the image that displays for that particular store. So for that particular item in your store. So you can make it look like this, look nice and pretty. There is a way to turn images off. So if you have too many products, you don't have any images, you can turn that off. That's not an issue. I'll show you how to do that a bit later. But this is what it would look like if you had a full image library for each item. It just looks really, really nice. So this is what my cart looks like. I also do have a home page, which is a landing page of sorts, and it's been set up like this. So again, all of these images and stuff have been very, very nicely curated by our marketing team. We can provide marketing support on those particular images if you are interested in that with that bootcamp email. So this is what it looks like. I've got a slideshow of banner images here. I've also got my popular categories, which your categories will actually pull from your product groups automatically as well, but you can also fine tune that further within the store rather than in Unleashed. But you've got your nice little images here, and then I've also got some featured products here as well. So I can really prioritize certain products when I'm selling in my homepage. And this can act as sort of a landing page. And then the customer can go to the actual product screen and they'll be able to do an actual full order with the rest of your product base. So you can see how fine-tuned and how easy it is to actually set that up. Okay, so that's the setup and sort of the genesis of the store itself. Now I'm going to go into the settings part of it. So with the settings, there's quite a lot to get through, but we'll focus on the kind of the main aspects, which is the general settings, which we're seeing now, your product settings, the way people order, you can customize that a lot, as well as email, freight, customer invites, all that kind of stuff. So we'll go kind of top to bottom in this case. We'll start with the general settings. So the general settings is kind of your naming conventions and your typical stuff. So it's your brand name, for example, your main title of your catalog. So you will see summer stock has arrived. You might have seen in my cart, it was showing up here. So that's where that populates in the main banner image of your store itself. You've got the catalog page summary, which was underneath that as a little blurb underneath the heading. You've got delivery details, which you can actually put on your checkout pages. So when the customer goes to check out their order, if you've got very specific delivery details or things they need to know in terms of your courier service, for example, you might want to chuck that in there as just a little extra tidbit of information to communicate to them, which would be quite helpful. You've got your colors, which again, we've already selected in that setup phase, but you can obviously rejig that if you want to. And now we get into this stuff here. So this stuff here is kind of giving people options as to how they want to order. So this provides that really awesome customer experience because you're giving them as many options as you want, or limiting your options, and that's a bad way to say it, but it kind of gives them a more guided sort of experience as well, if that's what's going to be more beneficial. So first of all, you can allow customers to place standing orders. So like I said earlier, this is subscription-based orders. So this allows customers to place an order, and then they can actually set that order to repeat every week, every month, every second week, whatever they want to do. And it just saves them from having to communicate to you every single time they want to order the exact same thing, because it could be like even a daily order. So it just provides extra automation and streamlining for them as well as yourself, because you're not having to go and key orders in every time, etc., etc. So could be really useful for subscription-based and even trade customers who order the same thing. You can allow customers to import orders to cart. So rather than going through the B2B store and actually selecting products in the cart, they can actually import their orders via CSV if you want them to as well. So again, if that's easier for them, and especially if you've got a lot of bulk orders, a lot of a lot of product lines in your orders, this is a really good option for them as well. You can restrict orders by minimum product quantity if you want to. So in Unleashed, you can set, let's say you've got a bottle of bourbon, for example, and you can't sell more than 10 bottles without making a profit. So you've limited that product in Unleashed to have a minimum order quantity of 10. Turning this on will allow the B2B store to actually enforce that. So when they're going to order a product, they can't order below that minimum product quantity. It won't let them do it. So again, protecting your cash flow allows you to set those limits and parameters when you want to. You can also set your minimum order value limit. So this is a step further than that. So rather than doing it per product, what you can do is you can actually say, okay, if a customer orders less than $2,000, I want them to not be able to push the order through. So it actually enforces a full order limit. So they have to order above this particular threshold in terms of the total order value that they're ordering, rather than going below that. And again, profit retention, cash flow protection, it's all in there. That's what that is allowing you to do. You can set your login page, so you can choose to display your brand name and your company logo in your login page. So again, that's just what the customers are going to see when they first log into the system. And then the login blurb, you can put a little blurb in there if you want to. I'm just going to put that in there. It's something that just came up auto-populated. The footer, you can just choose to display a powered by Unleashed footer or not. This might just be for security reasons, just in case you need to inform people where the system is being hosted or something like that. You can choose to display that or not to display that, again, just depending on your requirements there. You've got your banner image at the top. So that was the image at the top that you saw in my products list. And then you've got an additional image you can set as well. You've got your company logo, which it is quite small to be fair, but it's going to be right there on the upper left-hand side of your store. This also comes up on your login page as well if you select it to. So the logo is still quite important because it just provides that extra sort of oomph to your branding. And that is the general settings page. So again, really basic stuff that's a little bit more fundamental to how the system looks and how the system is operating at the back end in terms of those options that those customers actually have when they log into your store. Now, I'll quickly touch on the home page. I did show the home page earlier, which looks like this, and I'll show you where to set that up. So if I go into home page and header, this is where this comes up. So you don't have to have a home page. You can actually turn it off and just have a cart. That's completely fine. A lot of people actually do that. But some people also have home pages because they want to create like a little bit of a landing page for your customers. So you can choose to display the customized homepage if you want to or not. You can turn that on or off. You can display your banner images. So these are all the images up the top that you would have seen cycling through. And I can set links to those as well if I want to as well. So I can actually click the image and it takes me to a certain web page. So if there's a certain promotional part on your website you want to go to, you can click on that and it'll take you to that web page, which is super cool. You've got your featured products, which you would have seen down the bottom. And then you've also got your categories here, these little GIFs that the marketing team have created for us, which are pretty cool. So yeah, definitely a lot of customization there as well, and super helpful for just creating a bit more visual oomph when the customer goes to log in and really grabbing their attention with featured items, popular categories, and really kickstarting their shopping journey, especially if they're a new customer or they're a guest. Really helps with that sort of adoption of the store, if you will. You've also got content pages, so you might have seen an About Us and a privacy policy page here. You can also not have those if you don't want to. You don't have to have them in there, but you can include those as well, and you can choose to have links to them in the header or the footer of your store, and you'll see you can also edit the actual content as well of those pages. So again, if you need to provide extra information about your company or anything like that, you can put that in there as well. You've got the option to do so. Okay, now we're going to get into the actual order settings. So this settings page here is actually dictating how the orders themselves and how the products are actually displayed in your store. So this is quite an important page to configure when you first set up your platform. So first of all, we've got custom product ranking. Now this is quite a new feature in Unleashed. What this will do is essentially you can set a display priority for certain products. So if you've got a product that's a 1 priority, that will be at the top of every list that the customer goes into, if obviously they're searching for the right category, etc., etc. So it just sort of prioritizes certain products you might want to push. You might have a promotion on a certain item that you want to make sure the customer sees. It's always going to be at the top of their view whenever they go into your storefront. I'll show you where to set that. So if you enable that in there and then go into your products list, which is here, you'll be able to set a display priority. So you can see that absinthe is currently display priority 1, and this one is 5. So this one's a bit lower down the list. I can change that to 2 if I want it right next to it, for example. So you can actually set, rather than just relying on the alphabetical order of the items, you can actually set that to have your own custom ranking, if you will, or custom order of products. You can display your images or not. So I explained that earlier. If you don't have any product images, you can turn that off, and it just prevents those gray boxes from coming up when the images are not being displayed. But if you do have product images, you can turn it on and make it look nice and pretty. Displaying product prices. So again, this for context here, for important context, this will bring through the customer's price. So if your customer's under a specific price tier or has a specific quantity price enacted for them in Unleashed, that will automatically carry over to their access in the B2B store, and they're going to see their prices. They're not going to see default prices by accident. They're only going to see their price. So just bear that in mind. You can choose to display product prices or not. So if you run more of a negotiated price, for example, and it's not necessarily a set price for your items, you can turn that off. So they then put the order through, and then you negotiate the price from that point. So that's an option for you as well. Tax inclusive. So as you may well be aware, Unleashed is a tax exclusive system. So all the prices in Unleashed must be entered in this tax exclusive, and then we apply the tax rate onto the sales order itself or the purchase order itself when you're logging that transaction. With the B2B store, you can choose to actually display your prices as inclusive tax. So, and that's going to be the customer specific tax rate. If you've got that, if you've got a lot of international customers, they'll have different tax rates or product specific tax rates as well. It's all going to mirror through. But it'll essentially allow you to actually show the price of the customer as to what they're actually paying, including tax. So again, just quite helpful for that more smooth shopping experience because they know exactly what they're going to be charged for each item. Fields for product title. So you've got product code and description, or both if you want to. Some people don't want to have the codes because your codes might be a bunch of numbers, like stringed numbers, for example. You might not want to have that in there. You'd rather just have the description of the product, so you can choose to actually display that as well. Could work the other way as well. Your codes might be more viable to look at for a customer than your descriptions. So you can actually set that up on your end as well here. Product details. You can choose to include your product notes as details or none. Product notes can be filled in on the Unleashed side and again brought through into here. And that could be things like specifications, technical measurements, ingredients, for example, if that's important for your product base. Again, providing the extra communication for customers and extra information for them if they choose to actually go in and look at a certain item. So really helpful there. You can display your unit of measure for your items. Again, if you've got a specific, if it's in kgs, if it's in liters, you might want to specify that in the store. So that's why you've got the display unit of measure there. Default products view. So you've got a choice between grid and list. So you can choose the default view that is populated when the user goes into the store. Now I've got it set as list. So if I go into here, she hasn't saved properly, but it's okay. So this is currently the grid view, but this is what the list view looks like. So you can choose the default view for whatever's going to come up first. Customer can still alternate if they want to. They can still change it, like I'm doing so here, but it just allows that extra automation if you need it. And this is a good view if you have really long product codes, for example, because it actually provides a bit more room for the product codes to actually fill the box. So something to bear in mind if you're struggling a bit with the limits of the grid view, the list view might be the better way to go for you if that's a alternative workaround for you. And where am I going? Whoops, that's not what I was supposed to do. Pardon me. There we go. Now we get into stock details. So stock details, this is more so for out of stock items. So obviously the stock on hand is also going to feed through into the B2B portal, and that's going to be reacting in real time to what's happening in Unleashed. So there's a few options here. You can choose to display out of stock badges or not. So if you don't want to indicate that a product is out of stock, you can turn that off or turn it on, depending on what you want there. You can also customize the text. So rather than saying a product is out of stock, it can be a little bit harsh, can be, it might not sound too reliable if you're just saying a product is out of stock because the customer doesn't know if it's coming or if it's being discontinued or whatever. It's a bit vague. You can change that. So I've put coming soon in here, which is a bit more lighter, and it reassures the customer that they're actually getting the product coming soon in your stock. So you're not then having to get communication of if this product is still active, etc., etc. Just again provides extra transparency for the customer. You can choose to display your stock counts. So again, if you don't want to show actual stock numbers in general, you can turn that off if you want to. So if you've got 20,000 in stock, you might not want to show that. So you can turn it on or off, whatever your requirements are there. You can set the status of your out of stock products. So when a product is out of stock and Unleashed, so 0 available stock, you can set the status to change for that product in the B2B store. And in the B2B store for a product, you have three main statuses. So you have sellable, visible, and hidden. Sellable means that they can see the product and they can buy it. So they can actually still add it to their carts and add it to their orders. This would be useful even for out of stock products if you allowed for back orders or allow for pre-orders of certain items, because they can still actually purchase it. It just means that they might not get that stock for a wee while until you get stock in to then provide them. You've got visible, so they can still see the item, but they can't actually purchase it. So they won't be able to add it to their cart if it's visible. And then you've got hidden, which means that the product is completely wiped. They can't see. So as soon as a product hits zero available stock, it will essentially remove itself from their view in the B2B store. And that's if you really can't afford to sell products that are out of stock and you don't have a pre-order system or a back order system. So it just means that you want to just wipe those products completely and then they can't order them. Now, if you do decide to sell them, you can choose to display the stock level per warehouse as well. So if you've got multiple warehouses set up, and you can actually choose the availability or what particular warehouses, if you've got quite a few, you can actually choose what particular warehouses show stock in the B2B portal or not, which is quite a useful feature, and I'll show that a bit later on in the call. But you can choose to display the stock per location. So if a customer has a preferred location, they can actually go and look for that location and see, okay, well, you've got 50 in this one, so I'm good to go. Or they can potentially even ask for a transfer if there's a lot of stock in one location, but the one that's closer to them has nothing. So you can kind of, again, give the customers that full transparency there. You can also choose to display the estimated date of arrival for out-of-stock products. So this is actually going to take all of your open purchase orders and the expected required date or arrival date of those purchase orders, and that's going to actually display in the B2B store for your customers. So if a product is coming soon, they'll be able to even then see it's coming in a week or coming in a month or on a specific date. And so they're again reassured that that product is actually coming and you're going to have stock of it so they can go and pre-order it without any issues or any misconceptions of expectations. So really, really useful for transparency. But again, if you don't want that displayed there, you can turn that off because you might not want customers knowing your delivery schedules, etc. So something to look for as well there. So again, there's a lot of different settings there, and definitely recommend if you're setting up your B2B store for the first time, playing around, seeing what works for you, and even just going into the product store without inviting anyone yet and just sort of testing the workflow and testing the visual aspect of it, just to see what's going to work. And then when you're ready, you can then roll out to your customers and all happy days. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the products list now. So this is my actual product admin list. So this isn't a cart, this is just an admin list in the background for you to customize. And it's sort of dictating what your products are doing in the system. Now I've got my action cog on the upper left-hand side here, and I've got a few options here. I can choose to make all my products hidden, visible, or sellable, and obviously specific ones as well I can do just by ticking them. So it's selected or it's bulk, like Unleashed is. So again, that's those three statuses that we mentioned earlier. So hidden means they can't see it, visible means that they can see it, but they can't buy it, and sellable means they can see it and buy it. So that's where that comes in. You've also got categories. Now, categories, when you first set up your store, they will automatically feed from your product groups. So that's an automatic integration. You can add categories further to that. So you're not locked into your product groups. You don't have to go into Unleashed and update your product groups to get something else across. You can actually add it in here if you want to. I don't need to select some products. So let's do these two here. Here we go. So I can actually add these products to a category if I wish. So a category is basically a way to filter in the store. It's a way to search for certain items. When the customer logs in, they can search for, okay, I want to buy beer, and let's say I want to buy lager, for example. So I'm just going to go and add those products into that category. And then if I go to my homepage, search up beer, it's going to come up with those two products that I've just added. Whiskey and absinthe don't make much sense in a beer category, but you get what I mean. It's adding them to a filter for the customer to then search for when they go to log and order. I'm going to go back to my products list now. There we go. You've also got the option of catalogs. Now, catalogs are a bit different to categories. They're very similarly named, so it can provide a bit of confusion there for us as well. But what a catalog is, it's basically a library of products specific to a customer. So what you can do, you can set a catalog and set a group of customers under a catalog, for example, and let's say you only have 3 products listed in that catalog. Those customers in that catalog are now the only people that can see those 3 products. The rest of the customers not in that catalog won't be able to view those items. So you can restrict customers by certain products. You can have, if there's a bunch of products that are irrelevant to a lot of clients, you can set up a catalog for those particular clients and then add the client to that catalog, and then they're not going to see the irrelevant stuff. They're only going to see the stuff relevant to them. So again, just providing that immediate sort of experience for them. So let's say I've got a product, let's say English gin, and I'm going to add that to my catalog here. So let's say it's part of our spring range. So I'm going to go add this to my spring range, or I can create a new catalog if I wish as well. Now, the default status here is quite important. So the default status, what that's actually referring to is your main products list. Now, every single customer in your B2B store is going to have access to your default main list. So that main list essentially acts like another catalog, but it's your base catalog. It's your draft list of products. We would recommend in most cases, if you are setting up catalogs, to set this as hidden, because it actually then hides the product from the rest of the people not in this catalog. If you set it as visible or sellable, no change, that's actually still going to allow people to see that product outside of the catalog that you're selecting here. So for most cases, you would change that to hidden. And then assigning the product in the selected catalog themselves, obviously I want to make that sellable because I want the customer to be able to purchase it within that catalog specifically. So if I go and add that now, so if I scroll down, you will see that English gin is now hidden in my base default status, which is good because we don't want that to be shown by anybody else. And we only want that product to be shown in these catalogs that have been selected for it. So you can see there's actually 3 catalogs in here. You can set multiple catalogs for one product, and also customers can go into multiple catalogs as well. So you're not limited to 1 per product, 1 per customer. You can have multiple per avenue if you wish as well. So hopefully that made sense. The catalogs feature can be a little bit confusing just because of the reasoning of hiding your default status. It just can cause a bit of confusion. So if you've got any questions on that, do let us know. Chuck us an email on that unleashed at bootcamp at unleashedsoftware.com, and we'll be able to answer that for you and provide a bit more clarity there if you wish. So that's all good. Okay, so we've gone over categories and catalogs. So that's sort of a main feature of the product setting. And to wrap it up, you've obviously got set priority as well if you wish. So you can actually do that in bulk rather than doing it one by one. And that's that custom product ranking that we showed earlier. So really, really easy functionality there as well. Cool. Now that we've set up our products, now that we've gone through our order settings, and now that we've gone through our general settings and set up our home pages, etc., let's get into actually inviting some customers in. So if I go to my customers screen and click here, these are all my customers. So again, this has gone through from Unleashed directly once I set up the store, but it hasn't invited them yet. So what I need to do, I've got a couple of options here. I can select the ones that I want to add, and I can actually just hover over this, and I can send an invitation to the primary contact. So that's the main contact for each customer. Now, if a customer has multiple contacts, so if you've got 2 contacts under a customer, for example, you can actually go to the right-hand side, manage contacts, and you can actually invite those contacts separately. So it's not limited to one invitation per customer. If you've got 5 people under one company, you can actually invite those people separately, and they've got their own logins and they can go and create their own orders as well. So really, really helpful stuff there if you've got multi-branch customers, for example, bigger companies that you're dealing with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back into that screen. I don't know why I got out of it. I'm going to go back into here. Oops, that's not what I want to do. And I'm going to just resend the invitation to this guy here, who's my main contact for this particular customer. So you can see that now I've reset the invitation. It's currently pending, which means that it's still awaiting his activation or awaiting his authentication of the invite. So what's going to happen is he's going to receive an email with an invite link, goes into it, sets up his account, logs in, and then he's good to go. And then this will say that he's now active in the system. So this page will give you a real-time update of that. You can see these people have expired. That means that they haven't actually activated their account yet, and the invitation is now expired. So you'll just need to go and actually send them a new one just by clicking there. You can either cancel it or you can resend them the invitation directly as well. So something to bear in mind, and we'll go through the expiry date stuff for that invitation slightly later in a couple more minutes. And again, like I said, you can assign catalogs to them as well. So you'll see these assigned catalogs for each customer, and these are all the catalogs that this particular customer can see, for example. So all of the products relating to these catalogs will be able to be seen by that customer because they've got access to that particular catalog there. Awesome. Alrighty. So guest access. So yeah, those are your repeat customers. So those are the customers already in Unleashed, and they're the customers that already have accounts with you. Then you've got guests. So if you've got a retail storefront or you rely a lot more on walk-ins, this is going to be quite useful for you. So first of all, you can allow guests to access the store or not. Fairly self-explanatory. Customers who aren't on your list can still go into the store if you've got this enabled. You can choose to display the store page. So rather than just the login page, you can actually choose to display the cart up front so they can instantly see the B2B store rather than having to log in into that. They still need to log in themselves, but they'll be able to still browse the store before they've actually done that if you have this set up. If you don't have it set up, they need to log in to actually browse the store. So that's just something to bear in mind. So they can browse, but they need to actually log in to create an order itself. You can also show product pricing to guests or not. So again, if you want the guests to just be able to browse and select products, not knowing the price, because again, your retail price could be negotiable, that's when you wouldn't disable that. But otherwise, you can enable it, and then it allows the default pricing to send through. So that's just your default sale price for each item that's been set up and unleashed. Or if you've got a specific price for retail, what you can do is you can set up a guest customer in Unleashed and call it guest, for example. And then you can put that in here and then set up some unique prices for products with that particular guest customer in mind. So you can really tailor it if you want to, or you can just use a default price as an RRP, essentially, a retail price. You've also got the request access form. So this is for new customers, and this is what they're going to get when they want access. You can actually turn this on or off if you want to. If you turn it on, you can actually customize this quite a bit. So you can actually have these fields be visible and mandatory. You don't have to have them compulsory, but if you want the country to be compulsory, for example, you can make that mandatory in that box there. You've also got some like dynamic fields you can add. So there's 3 of them, and you can actually change the lettering of this. So you can actually have a unique field unique to your business. Could be like an ID number, could be anything like that, which they also do need to fill in. And you can make it mandatory, visible, etc., etc. So really, really cool functionality. Just allows that customization of what information you're requesting from any new customer that tries to log into your B2B storefront. Then we've got payment settings. So payment settings. So like I said earlier, we integrate with Stripe directly, and that allows for that pay later or pay now functionality I mentioned way well at the beginning of this webinar. Now, this is where you set up that integration. So you'd have to have a Stripe account first, obviously, to connect to this particular integration. So do just bear that in mind. And what this will do, this will allow the B2B store checkout to then have a payment gateway attached to it, which is super helpful. So you can see if you had a couple of options there as well. You can enable payments for registered customers and for guests. So you can actually choose to set up that payment gateway for guests as well as your trade, your regular customers. And again, per customer, you can also then assign if they're prepaid, so if they're paying instantly, or if they're on account, so they're paying at a later point when the order is processed. So you've got that option there for them as well. With guests, obviously that's going to be prepaid because they're going to be logging in without an account. You won't be able to set that specifics up, so they will need to actually pay directly when they're going to log that order. So just bear that in mind as well. Freight settings. So freight, you can add freight to your orders and you can add freight to your checkout process as well. So it's going to give the customer a really clear indication of the freight that's being charged for a particular setup or a particular order. So you can add freight to checkout. So you can actually switch that on, and then that'll automatically add freight to the customer's orders. So it'll automatically add a freight charge to that. You can also add tax onto that freight charge as well. So that just applies the customer's tax rates to that freight charge. So if it's a 15% GST, for example, then that's just going to be put in against that particular freight charge as well as the products themselves. Now, I'm based in good old New Zealand, so you might see that I've got some funny regions here. I've got North Island and I've got South Island. So with our freight settings, you can actually set up specific zones with their own rates, which is super helpful. And each customer can obviously then be assigned to a specific zone, which they can then get their rate from. So There's two kinds of rates that we can set up for freight here. There's a flat rate and then there's a freight over an order value. So I'll start with the flat rate first. So you'll see here that my price tiers have now come up. So in Unleashed, you can set up price tiers for your customers. So each customer can be under a specific tier of price. So your wholesale customers, for example, can be on a wholesale tier and they get wholesale prices that can be unique for each product for each tier. If a customer belongs to a certain price tier, again, that's going to carry over into the B2B store here. And then you can actually set up some special freight prices for them. So for my wholesale clients, I want to actually have free freight. I'm not going to charge them freight at all. Therefore, I've just set it to $0 and it's going to mark as free freight. Trade clients, I want to charge them $10. It's still a cheaper rate, but I'm just going to charge them a blanket $10 for any trade customers under that particular tier that order through the store. And then my investors, probably not a great business decision, but I want to charge them $200 of freight because I want to charge them a bit more. So that's giving me, again, that flexibility to actually set the freight rate and set the expectation of you're under this particular tier, so therefore you get this freight. They're not going to see the different tiers. They're not going to see the different freight rates for each tier. They're just going to see the freight rate for their own tier that comes up there. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, with each zone, you can also have a flat rate and a freight over order value as well, which is more interesting. So this is the same thing. So the sale price tiers are going to come up for you. However, this time there's a threshold involved. So what the threshold is actually an order value that they need to hit in order to get a different freight charge from the flat rate. So my wholesale clients, if they go over $50, so if they purchase over $50 worth of stock from the B2B store, they get free freight. Or like I can choose to have a $5 freight charge, for example. So I can customize that. Investors, if they spend over $20, they get free freight as well. So that will override the flat rate because they've gone over a certain order value. So the freight over order value always overrides the flat rate. But if they don't hit this threshold, then the flat rate will then obviously apply that you saw before. So again, you can have kind of like a ladder system going ahead with your different freight charges there, which is super, super cool. No, that's not where I want to go. Delivery days. So you can also set up your days that you deliver on and set that expectation for your clients directly. So you can say that I deliver on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're not in the office. We're not in the warehouse. We're not going to be delivering on those days. So the customer is going to be made aware of that. Also, no delivery periods. So you can see here 25th of December to the 16th of January. That's a typical Christmas shutdown period. So we're basically saying we're not going to be delivering in this particular date range because it's in a holiday period or it's in a no delivery period. So again, really, really useful stuff that you can set up and the customer's going to be well aware of the expectations of when you're delivering and when you're not. So that will inform their decision accordingly there. Last but certainly not least, we've got email settings. So email settings is where you can actually email your customers when they've placed orders, when the orders are completed, when they've been back ordered, for example. You can set all the different statuses up to automatically email clients. So you can actually set up a bit of a communication chain that's automated so the customer knows exactly what's happening with all of their orders, which is super, super cool. So first of all, you can choose to email the customer just in general when the order is created. You can choose not to if you want to, and you can edit that email content as well. You can add links, you can add different images if you want to, you can make it really snazzy, and that will then obviously send that email to the customer with the order details within there. Nope, there we go. Here we are. I can also choose to email the store administrator. So this is going to send the email to the contact email address you have set up in your store. And just for context, that is actually up here. So if I go into contact details in my store settings, I can set up a contact email address. This is what's going to receive those emails. So just bear that in mind there as well. So that's just a general basic setting that you can set up in the first instance. Then I've got status mapping. So based on what's happening in Unleashed for that order. So once the order comes into Unleashed, obviously you can change the status of it. So you can put it in parked, put it in placed, you can back order them, you can complete them and obviously delete them. Each status can be changed for different wording, and that wording can then be sent to your customers in an email as well. And you can customize the content of all of these emails. So again, just providing that really clear history and really clear status change notification for your customers, especially for things like back order or deleted, because obviously they're going to want to know if their order has been cancelled for whatever reason. So it might be quite important to set that up if you're wanting that real automatic communication. You can also promote products in your emails. So you can actually promote certain items in all of your emails just to provide a bit of a bump in terms of where those products are getting noticed. Pretty similar to the featured products in the homepage. Same sort of principle applies there. Then you've got the customer invite email. So when you invite your customers, this is the email they're going to see. And again, you can fully customize that with links, images, different fonts, etc. So you can really, really tailor the experience from the very outset to your customers, which is really, really awesome. You can choose to actually change the expiry date or the validity date of the validity period, rather, of the invite email itself. There is a max of 30 days there, so just bear that in mind, but you can have it expire earlier if you wish. If you're not wanting customers to be sitting there for a month kind of stewing on it, you can just say, oh, it's in 5 days, and then they can contact you and you can then resend the invitations, etc. So they're not locked out after 30 days because you can re-invite them. But it gives you that flexibility there as well. And there's also how will it look. So it'll actually send you a preview email to your main email address, which is also helpful for testing and helpful for setting up the store in the first place, which is what we're focusing on today. Awesome. There's just a couple more settings. If I go back into Unleashed itself, there's just a couple more settings here I wanted to, here we go. A couple more settings here I wanted to touch on. So this is actually back in Unleashed itself. So you'll see the B2B store has now been set up. So that's the one I actually set up previously. I've then got some configurations here I can go through. So I can invite new administrators. So these are people that can actually edit the store, they can configure the store, they can change the settings of the store. These are people that can actually do all that. So make sure you're inviting the right users there. You can also choose to invite salespeople as well. So those people can't really edit those settings, but they can still create orders on behalf of customers. So they can actually engage with the sales process in the store itself. You've got the order status. This is the stuff we set up beforehand. I'm not going to go too far into it, but it's the order status of the order coming into Unleashed, your warehouse mapping. So the warehouse that's by default going to receive those orders, and then the default tax rate of the orders themselves. Then you've got the stock control. So this is the ones I wanted to highlight. So if you've got a big production pipeline, so if you really produce your items per order, you've got a lot of auto assembled bill of materials in your Unleashed account, what you can do is you can actually tick this, and rather than showing the quantities of just what you have, so if you have 2 boxes in stock, it's going to show 2 boxes in your store. You might have a bunch of componentry where you can actually make 70 boxes, not just two. Turning this on will allow the components to feed through, and therefore it's going to show as the available quantity rather than the on-hand quantity of that item. So super helpful there if you've got a 2 order production pipeline. And then you've got assigning warehouses for stock availability. So, like I said earlier, you can actually select the warehouses that are sending stock to the B2B store. So, if you want all 3 of your warehouses to send stock, you can do so, or you can just have the one warehouse as well. If you just want one channel going through and then you're managing all the other stock separately. So, again, totally up to you and totally configurable as to what your needs are there. Okay, we're going to wrap it up soon. I'm just now going to go through one more thing, which is the actual customer experience. So we're actually going to go and now act on behalf of one of our customers, and we're actually going to log an order as them and see what that checkout process looks like in a fully set up store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my customers list and I'm going to act on behalf of this customer. So if I go to the actions tab on the right hand side, I can then act as a customer here, like so. You can see this little detective dude here is now orange, which means we are now acting as a particular customer. So now if I go into the product screen again, and I'll just change the grid view just for ease of visibility. So these prices here are actually this customer's specific price. So I am now basically logged in as this customer. So this is really good for remote sales because you can actually get a sales rep to log in as customers and do orders for them. If you've got like a real telesales team, they might want to use this as their like order gateway for people ringing on the phone, for example. They just log in as that user and then away they go. Or obviously when you're on the road, you can enable this, and then if you've got a specific customer, you can act as them, and then they can log their order on a tablet or whatever have you. So a lot of different use cases there, and even just for testing a new store as well. If you want to just see what a particular customer can observe in the store, this is a good way to do so. So this is their specific pricing. This customer for this product also has a quantity discount, which has come through from Unleashed. And if they hover over it, you'll see that they've got a few options. So they can order 5 and they get $25, 10 they get $22, and then if they order over 100, they get $18 per bottle. So they can see those incentives right up front when they go to log into the store, which is super, super cool for them to see that. And again, just mitigates some of that extra communication you might have to have with that client on those particular deals. So these products are also going to be restricted to the catalogs that that user is also a part of, especially considering some of those products are hidden in our default list. This customer seems to be in a lot of catalogs, so they're going to see quite a few products here. So just bear that in mind. So we're going to go and add some products now. So let's say that we're the customer. We're going to add some products to our cart. So we just go and add these products in now. I want 2 of those, and I'm going to have, let's say, 5 of these. We're throwing a bit of a party tonight. So you can see that my cart here now has 2. So my cart is now updated. Let's say I've finished the order. I can now go into my cart here. So it's going to give you an overview of the cart, pretty standard stuff for an e-commerce storefront. And you can update the order quantity if you wish from there, or delete stuff. Let's say that I'm happy. I'm going to proceed to the order now, like so. Now, this won't come up for the customer. This is just for people acting on behalf of customers, simply because you can't act on behalf of a specific contact. So what this is doing is basically allowing you to identify which contact for that customer you're logging in as. So fairly self-explanatory. Then you've got the shipping address, so they will be able to see this. If you have delivery addresses set up for that customer in Unleashed, this will also pull through, and they'll be able to just select one of the addresses rather than having to go and type all this in every time. So if you want that ease of use, make sure you're putting their delivery addresses in Unleashed and then for each customer, and then that's going to flow through into that B2B portal, nice and easy for them. Now, this is the final screen here. So I've got my confirming my order, all well and good. I've got the option to make it a standing order, which is my repeat order because I've enabled that in my store. And I can choose to set that, let's say, every 3rd week or every 3rd month, for example, and starting from a specific date. So they can update that frequency whenever they want. They can put the orders on pause if they want to at any point. Fully flexible for them. And again, that's just really good for repeat orders that people are going to want to do when they're ordering the same product multiple times over a certain frequency. So rather than making a standing order, I'm just going to place the order as a regular one-off order. And then that's going to come up with a thank you for your order screen. They're going to receive an email confirmation of that. They can then continue shopping from there and obviously review their order from that point. When they're logged in as a customer, they're also going to have a My Order screen where they can see order history, for example. Now, I think I'm doing a pretty bad job of fulfilling this customer's orders, so I wouldn't be very happy if I was them because all these order statuses aren't in green. They're all in red. But these are all the orders that they've logged previously in this particular store, and they'll be able to even see the total amount, and they can review what they've actually ordered, etc., etc. So giving them that full transparent history of all of their orders. If they've got standing orders, they can also choose to put these on pause or resume them or change the frequency of them if it's too frequent or too infrequent. So I can resume that order, and then I can change the actual frequency of the order itself and save my changes there. So again, they've got full flexibility of what they can do with those orders. And finally, there's import orders. So this is the import CSV. It's going to give them full instructions on how to do it. And this is just them putting the bulk orders into a CSV template and pushing that into the store rather than having to go into the cart and select 100 products if they've got 100 products on their orders. So it might be a really good, useful tool for a lot of those bulk customers, especially. Cool, guys. Look, I'm going to wrap it up there, but hopefully that provided a really good background as to what is possible in the B2B store and what the customer experience looks like, what the possibilities that it can look like, and just sort of the many intricacies of setting that up. So again, the setup itself is easy and really straightforward. So it just shows you how smooth that can be. And then the fine tuning, again, is really simple. And just gives you a lot of options to really go nuts and play around. So I'd highly encourage people to play around with the stores if they're set up already. And also go ahead, subscribe to the B2B store module, set up your store, play around with your settings, create a test customer, test your integration out, test on acting on behalf of them, test their orders, and really just get a feel for the system as a whole. And use this video as a guide as well to each setting if you need to, because this will be recorded as well. I'm going to quickly show you the B2B Store Showcase just to wrap things up. This just shows you the other possibilities as well that some of our customers have done. So big shout out to Goodman Brothers for giving us the option to look at the store. But you'll see that this store is actually embedded into a website. So rather than relying on the B2B Store as your main website, you can actually embed the store itself into another website. If that appeals to you, then that's definitely an option you can explore as well with the portal here. And if I continue as a guest in their store, you'll see that they've got a really, really cool homepage with a bunch of different categories. And it's all looking really nice. And then they've got their different products here as well, which is all looking awesome. Another example is Bean 14. So Bean 14 also have a store which looks really cool. And again, just showing you the visual sort of possibilities of what can be done with the store and how cool they can actually look. So really, really exciting stuff. So they can definitely recommend looking at the showcase just to get a handle on what you can do, really. Oops, what am I doing? Awesome. And again, just a brief reminder that if you've got any questions from today, again, I know that there's been a lot of information that I've gone through in the past hour, but if there's any questions from today, please direct them to our dedicated bootcamp inbox, bootcamp@unleashsoftware.com. And we'll be happy to answer any of those B2B related questions that you've got, especially from this session. And again, we can provide some marketing support as well if you're wanting a bit more assistance on the visual stuff. In terms of your images, in terms of your coloring, in terms of things like that, definitely get in touch on that particular email address and we'll be able to assist you there. It's awesome, guys. Thank you for joining, and we will catch you later. Cheers, guys. Thank you.